The people want you up here, man, on the no funny shit couch.
You better check my jacket, man.
Oh, man.
Jim Jones said, Nas pushes a T and Styles P doesn't have enough catalog to stand beside him. And that one sentence lit a fire across hip-hop. It wasn't some backstage joke or late-night live stream slip-up. It was loud, deliberate, and public. And within hours, it went viral for all the wrong reasons. The moment the clip hit social media, fans weren't just debating, they were dragging. Because when a Harlem rapper dares to question Nas's legacy, people don't ask for clarification, they pull out receipts.
I ain't in the same league. Me and Jim don't do the same things.
Yeah, y'all don't.
I am a bar master.
That's where it's different, though.
I am a lyrical technician.
Uh-huh.
I've been on joints with some of the best MCs in the world.
Uh-huh.
Big, Hove.
What followed was a swift and surgical counterstrike. Styles P didn't just respond. He dismantled the entire premise of the no-show, saying straight-faced, I and Jim aren't in the same league. And that wasn't bravado. That was a declaration. He laid it out clear. Lyrical technician, barmaster, name-checked by Rakim, KRS, Big Hav, and all the gods. Meanwhile, Jadakiss didn't even bother wasting syllables. Sitting across from Jim on the Joe and Jada podcast, he shut down the conversation before it started. This is a PSA, Jada said. We're not going to talk about my brother Styles, and we're not going to talk about Cam. He didn't mention Jim's name once after that. And that silence is louder than any diss track. It was strategic, cold, and intentional, and we all knew exactly what it meant. That moment immediately reignited the trauma of 2021. When Dipset and the LOX faced off at Madison Square Garden, what was supposed to be a celebration turned into a live execution. Jim Jones, Cameron, and Joel Santana walked in with fur and swagger. They left buried under bars. Jada, Styles, and Sheek Louch didn't just win that versus credibility in front of a global audience. That battle never left the culture. It burned. And now, with one tone-deaf comment, Jim brought it all rushing back. Like a man who forgot how bad the last round was. If there's a lyricist or MC,
I'm one of their favorites.
Respect.
I'm not here to make catchy hooks and do dope. I don't knock that. I'm trying to say some that's gonna make your soul move. That's what I'm into. I'm into making your soul move. So when I say a verse, you're gonna, if it resonates with you, it's gonna be some you may catch.
The fan response quickly shifted to hostility. Supporters of Nas overflowed timelines with quotes from Magic 3 to Illmatic, track lists, and awards. Push's statistics illustrating why he's still charting in his 40s were pulled by a fan. LOX supporters didn't require numbers. We already had this conversation, they remarked, pointing to the Garden stage. Hip-hop forums were referring to Jim's revelation as the year's biggest out-of-pocket expense within a day, and things became hazy behind the scenes. Journalists were reportedly informed by insiders close to Jim's team that the comment was meant to provoke discussion rather than mayhem. Two people connected to Jones' media circle said that it was anticipated that the internet would make it into a lighthearted argument. However, no one foresaw the firestorm. Therefore, we must ask, was this a real blunder or a planned risk to remain current in a field where moments are more important than music? Jim has attempted to stir things up with a viral issue before, but he struck a chord this time, because you get exposed rather than just clap back when you hurl mud at people like Styles P, who have made their entire career off of their lyrical integrity. Styles immediately shifted into technician mode, reminding everyone that his repertoire is historic rather than merely lengthy. He repeated, I bar stuff down as if it were a chant. He wasn't feigning, he was acting arrogantly. Additionally, he established a distinct boundary by calling forth the cosigns of Tails. Popularity is not the point here. It has to do with pedigree.
Never answer it, and not to disrespect Jim, but that's disrespectful to me and my catalog for me, for how I look at it. I am a bar master.
What made the situation even tenser was how Jadakiss handled it. He didn't go off. He didn't diss. He just refused to dignify Jim with attention. Real ones understood immediately. Jada was invoking the code. In this game, sometimes silence hits harder than bars. And it didn't end there. According to a former label exec familiar with the D-Block camp, there were quiet conversations behind closed doors. The word was, Jim was being advised to apologize off-camera before things escalated further. That never happened. Instead, Jim doubled down and the LOX turned unity into ammunition. Styles didn't hold back. He went on a full press run, repeating the same core message: respect the craft. He wasn't rattled, he was focused, because he understood the moment wasn't just about Jim. It was about how far hip-hop had drifted from its roots. We don't make catchy hooks, he said. We say stuff that moves your soul. That hit hard because it's true. Styles doesn't chase hits, he drops scripture. And when a rapper like that tells you to check his jacket, you better believe he's got nothing to prove.
He don't got a green piece of paper. He don't got none of them kind of songs that make cry. A couple of them, but not 20 of them.
That's a venue with 100 niggas.
Catalog.
That's a venue with 100 niggas.
You better check my jacket. You better check my jacket. You better check my jacket, bro.
Jim attempted to play both sides in the meanwhile. Days later, he informed supporters during a live stream, "It's just entertainment." However, that justification didn't work out the way he had hoped, because flying the entertainment flag becomes a shield, or worse, a smokescreen when you're facing artists whose livelihoods are based on authenticity. The energy changed at that point. What began as a disagreement gradually unraveled, because it begs the question, what are you really defending if you have to defend yourself with entertainment each time someone calls you out? But underneath all of this, there's something more profound at work. Because this remark wasn't the beginning of the conflict between Jim and Styles. It goes all the way back to when Dipset and the Lukes were made to share a stage. That battle wasn't merely a show. A scoreboard was used, and the fallout was terrible. The memes were truthful. Additionally, the playback did not. And that loss still hurts Jim, who spent more than 20 years developing his brand, from street to business prominence. Industry sources suggest that this most recent outburst may have been more about changing the narrative than it was about showing contempt. For the viewer, a sort of remember me moment.
Baseball, damn, like I gotta find another ball. You know what I mean? And then slowly but surely I got out of that phase of just trying to chase ball and make music that I continue to make money. I mean, and I do believe a hit will come, and a few hits have came since.
It doesn't help that Cameron, his former right hand, has publicly distanced himself for over a year. When Cam took the stage with 50 Cent in Miami, it wasn't just another concert. It was a message. Cam teaming up with 50 while publicly brushing off his tension with Jim sent waves through the culture. And then came the podcast clips. Cam openly tells Memphis Bleak that he doesn't think he and Jim will ever reconcile. The run was only 7 years, he said. We got 15 years of disputes, longer than the run. He wasn't exaggerating. 17 years of shots, interviews, subs, and studio tension. And now, Jim's latest quote about Nas, Styles, and Push didn't just disrespect legends. It reopened all those wounds, all at once. There's also growing speculation that Jim's public image might be running on borrowed time. Some fans pointed out that his fashion-forward persona and viral antics seem like a distraction from the fact that the music hasn't been hitting the same. And when Styles P pointedly said, "I made up a lane," it wasn't just a flex. It was a reminder that there's a difference between influence and trend chasing, between creating the wave and riding someone else's.
The utmost respect for Jim for how he built his career, for how he made his way, and what he does and what he brings to the game. I love Jim. That's like my bro.
Right.
But I think to compare us is a unfair comparison.
And that's precisely what's stoking the rumors about Jim's motivations. Was this most recent quotation truly a casual observation? Or, in a society where anger equates to involvement, was it a botched prank intended to go viral? The issue is that you can't control the consequences, because Jim found himself on the wrong side of both when the LOX intervened and the topic changed from clout to credibility.
He would, like, I can never take away anything that he's done in the game. I can't, you heard? And that's not it. But as a competitive man, that's all I'm doing is popping my and this is what hip-hop is about. But for the most part, I got no problem with Nas. Shouts to Nas.
Jim attempted to play both sides in the meanwhile. Days later, he informed supporters during a live stream, "It's just entertainment." However, that justification didn't work out the way he had hoped. Because flying the entertainment flag becomes a shield, or worse, a smokescreen, when you're facing artists whose livelihoods are based on authenticity. The energy changed at that point. What began as a disagreement gradually unraveled, because it begs the question, what are you really defending if you have to defend yourself with entertainment each time someone calls you out? But underneath all of this, there's something more profound at work, because this remark wasn't the beginning of the conflict between Jim and Styles. It goes all the way back to when Dipset and the Lox were made to share a stage. That battle wasn't merely a show, a scoreboard was used, and the fallout was terrible. The memes were truthful. Additionally, the playback did not. And that loss still hurts Jim, who spent more than 20 years developing his brand from street to business prominence. Industry sources suggest that this most recent outburst may have been more about changing the narrative than it was about showing contempt. For the viewer, a sort of remember me moment.
I fight all my battles on my own. I take losses and I take my wins the same way. You heard? The same smirk, just like this.
Pam also didn't hold back in the aftermath. He reminded listeners on the Rock Solid show that it has been over 20 years since he and Jim were genuinely cool. The battle lasted 15 years, while the run lasted only 7. That wasn't only a summary. It provided an overview of Jim's position in 2025, abandoned as his erstwhile classmates create power circles without him, because hip-hop never forgets who was left out, even though time may heal personal wounds. The LOX continued to apply pressure back on the East Coast. Styles P did more than just conduct bar-heavy interviews. Even while he didn't reveal names in his new freestyles, there were enough veiled insults to keep the rumors going. It was easy to decipher lines like brothers who forgot who fed them first and phony nostalgia talk. Jadakiss, however, continued to be silent, unchanging, and stone-faced. And the silence struck in a different way. It wasn't about who could rap better, though. It was about who was still important. Relevance is earned in quiet just as much as in sound in a genre that values authenticity.
Must be some type of misconception or what's that word when it comes to Jim Jones and what Jim Jones have done in this game. A lot of these rappers,
we made them take the darkies off.
A lot of these rappers have done a tremendous job, and I take nothing away from them, but they forget I got a hell of a catalog. Me, Jim Jones, myself, gold records, platinum.
Behind closed doors, that relevance started showing up in numbers. According to 3 producers with ties to Def Jam and Epic Records, Jim's recent behavior has sparked concern at the executive level. One called the Nas comment career sabotage. Another insider claimed that some labels put meetings on hold not because they doubted his talent, but because the optics were too risky. No one wants to be seen backing the guy who came for Nas and got buried, the producer said quietly. A narrative was forming. Jim wasn't just catching flack, he might be losing leverage. Still, he tried to control the spin. In a live stream days later, Jim told followers the clip was taken out of context. He claimed he never said he was better, just that they didn't have the same kind of catalog. But fans weren't having it. They pulled up the footage. They quoted his exact words. There was no ambiguity. As one commentator put it, you can't say the quiet part out loud and then blame the mic. Bloggers pounced. Old clips of Styles P tearing through classic verses started resurfacing. I'm Black Thought with a Knife from his LOX days, verses that had hip-hop heads in a frenzy. Side by side with Jim's recent material, the contrast became hard to unsee.
Behind that,
I still got the same passion as you can see. You heard? I'm a passionate brother. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I cry a lot of like that. I'm very emotional. So when people talk about me, I gotta stand up for me because nobody else gonna stand up for me as you.
What followed wasn't a sudden fall. It was a slow unraveling. Every repost felt like a public correction. Every fan-made comparison clip between Dipset's offbeat showings and the LOX's razor-sharp stage presence was another blow. Jim, for all his branding and charisma, looked increasingly like a man watching the party from outside the velvet rope, and the ones holding the clipboard now were the very same legends he tried to downplay. Meanwhile, the alliances forming outside of him kept gaining traction. Cam's 50s Miami appearance wasn't a one-off. It was followed by rumors that they were discussing a second show, possibly in LA, aimed squarely at bringing real New York energy to new coasts. Whether that's true or just good PR, the symbolism matters. Cam and Cam, 2 heavyweights known for holding grudges, had put aside past static. But Jim, still on the sidelines, still talking about who did what first? And that's where the cracks show. Because if 50 can reconcile with Cam, but won't even mention Jim's name, what does that say about where the bridge is really broke?
Jimmy, because when you think, and if I ask anybody on the streets of New York, like, give me some adjective or definition of Jim Jones, what do you think one of the words would be?
I would hope a survivor, a visionary, a philanthropist, a person with a big heart, person that stand on 10 toes. Not perfect. He's a perfect example of what could happen for you in life if you believe in yourself.
It also didn't help that Styles P kept leaning to the narrative without directly attacking. He made sure to frame the culture around legacy, bars, respect, and influence. He spoke on how hip-hop was being diluted by gimmicks, and how some rappers try to substitute visibility for value. The message wasn't just philosophical, it was tactical. It painted Jim's media blitz not as bold, but as desperate. And every time Jim popped up with a new outfit and a vague defense, it felt like he was arguing with shadows while the rest of the game moved forward. Insiders close to Jadakiss told reporters that Jada's refusal to engage wasn't passive, it was protective. He didn't want to embarrass him, one D-Block associate allegedly said, because if Jada starts talking, it's over, and everybody knows that. That's the energy fans picked up on. It wasn't that Jadakiss couldn't respond, it was that he didn't need to. The LX had already proven their point back in 2021, and they've only gained momentum since. But for Jim, the echo chamber kept spinning. He started leaning heavier into social media, teasing new music and hinting at a possible battle record, but nothing landed. One post showed him in the studio with a caption promising something for the haters. But instead of hype, the comments were flooded with side eyes. Fans weren't asking when the track would drop, they were asking why. Because in hip-hop, when the tone shifts from anticipation to doubt, it doesn't just affect your audience, it affects your position. But a former publicist with ties to Dipset claimed Jim's own team was split. According to the source, some around him believed he should go quiet for a while and let things cool off. Others thought he should double down, drop a disc, and try to own the backlash. The indecision and the lack of a clear direction only made things messier. And with Cam posting cryptic captions and Styles letting his pen do the talking, Jim looked like he was playing defense on too many fronts.
The house is ones who provide, who takes care, make sure everybody is there, everybody is taken care of. That's the man of the house. The boss of the house is usually the person who runs the house, and she runs the house.
We are currently witnessing a highly publicized debate unfold in real time as Cam and 50 create alliances, Styles pours out pure rage, and Jadakiss remains silent. The loudest voice in Harlem is bearing a heavy burden as a result of the cultural shift. This begins to appear less like a controversy and more like an escape the longer Jim continues to be on the defensive. Supplanted by a new generation that doesn't owe him the respect he formerly commanded, it wasn't forced or terminated. But the thing about hip-hop is that, if done correctly, there's always one more verse, one more moment, or one more mic check that might change the course of events. And that is what maintains the narrative's suspense. Since there is currently just one question remaining. Has Jim Jones simply trolled himself out of the society he was raised in? Or is there one final verse that will serve as a reminder to everyone of the true cause of this fire? Tell us your current position. Has Jim burnt out all of his goodwill? Or is he the victim of cancel culture overreach? This storm isn't over, so please share your ideas in the comments section. It has only just begun. Keep your ears open.